Hi guys, in what hasn't come as a huge surprise to most people, the party of No has said no to Rishi Sunak's replacement of sorts to the Northern Ireland Protocol. Now, I've said before that if the DUP backed it, it would rip the party in two, as we must remember that while the DUP is a headbanger party, it has its own type of headbangers. So instead it seems that the leader Jeffrey Donaldson is putting DUP unity over the needs of the people of Northern Ireland. Here he is.
Well, the DUP is saying that we have continuing concerns. We want to get this right. The DUP was proven right on the protocol. When everybody said the DUP was wrong, they're now admitting the DUP was right.
What are you talking about? The DUP were right about the protocol. Whenever issues were raised, I don't know what issues he's talking about. The DUP were right. Whenever issues were raised by businesses, for example, in Northern Ireland, the European Commission listened to them and implemented changes within the framework of the protocol. Like the DUP were demanding that Boris Johnson and Liz Truss trigger Article 16 of the protocol. They were demanding that the UK government tear up the protocol. The protocol remains in place. It's changed its name and there has been some changes to it, but within the framework, of course, the protocol has not disappeared. The DUP demanded its removal, then they demanded that it be changed. I'm not sure what Jeffrey Donaldson is talking about here, how the DUP were right.
So the DUP understands the problems when others ignore them.
What problems? As I said, whenever an issue was raised with the European Commission about trade, about products or whatever, the Commission listened and implemented changes within the framework of the protocol.
And bury their head in the sand. The DUP is the voice that says, this doesn't work for Northern Ireland. We need to get this right. That's what we're working towards. And we need to ensure that the measures proposed in the Windsor Framework work for Northern Ireland. And at the moment, we believe that what is there is not sufficient to meet the concerns that we have raised.
As I said, this is about protecting the DUP. Because there are headbangers in the DUP, there are more pragmatic voices in the DUP, and they're at loggerheads. And Jeffrey Donaldson knows that if he was to accept this with this Windsor agreement, Windsor Framework, and that would mean that he would have to get into government with Sinn Féin having the top slot of First Minister. And this would go against, it would upset a lot of people within the fringe elements of unionism, the TUV, and it would upset a lot of people within his own party. So the DUP painted themselves into a corner, and they're artists, it seems, at painting themselves into corners. They did it over Brexit, they're doing it over the protocol. When it came to Brexit, they wanted a border on the island of Ireland, and they didn't understand that the British government wouldn't do that. Then when it came to getting into government with Sinn Féin, they started, we don't want this protocol. So they were using the protocol, of course, as an excuse, saying that the protocol needed to go. Then they started to realize that, well, they couldn't get rid of the protocol, so they said the protocol needs to be changed. Well, now they're complaining about the changes. It doesn't go far enough. They represent a minority in Northern Ireland. The majority of people in Northern Ireland want the protocol implemented. They understand it's not perfect. As I said before, it's an extinguisher. Brexit is the fire. It's better than nothing. The DUP want to throw the fire extinguisher into the fire as well. or throw it away, not to use it. But because their goal is not to go into government with Sinn Féin. So I don't know how you square this circle, because if they finally accept it, they'll have to go into government with Sinn Féin. So I think what's going to happen is either the DUP eventually bite the bullet and say, okay, yes, we'll go into government with Sinn Féin, or we continue kicking this can down the road and the UK government will impose law from Westminster. Or there may be some agreement with the Irish government. But the people who will suffer will not be the DUP, it will be the people of Northern Ireland. Because they need an executive in place working for them. There are devolved matters that need to be dealt with, and they're not being dealt with correctly because there isn't an executive, because the DUP won't allow it to be formed, because they don't want to go into government with Sinn Féin, where Sinn Féin is in charge. They have the top slot of First Minister. It's pretty pathetic, but politics in Northern Ireland is like this. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.